Hey there, Colonials. Welcome back to another edition of Quickly Colonial. Today we're prepping and we're getting ready for a rainy day and also for camping or hunting expeditions or exploring or anything like that, maybe going out to sea. And what is one food staple that every single one of those scenarios is a good idea to have in your back pocket? And that would be hardtack. Now, whether you call it hardtack or worm castles or ship's biscuits, it's all the same thing. It was a food staple that was very, very shelf stable as long as you could keep it dry. What it is it's very simple. It's flour, water, and sometimes salt. And you mix it up into a manageable dough and bake it and get all the moisture out. It's a slow cook at a temperature to get all the moisture out. And what you're looking for is you certainly don't want to bite down on that because they're hard as bricks. So what you do with it, there's different methods that you can do to eat it and have it part of your food staple as a survival food, whether you're on a hike or going down river in a canoe or whatever the case may be. This was always a food that was shelf stable and able to withstand pretty much anything but moisture. As long as you could keep them dry, you'd be good to go. I've heard different recipes where they put it in a small cloth bag and hit it really hard with a rock and just smash it to bits until it's almost a powder, and then they would put that in their little kettle with maybe they caught a rabbit or a squirrel that day and made a stew or a soup, and they would sprinkle the powder of the worm castle in there and it would thicken it up. Or they would take just one of the biscuits all by itself and put it in a small container with a little bit of water and a little bit of salt and pepper and let that boil and let it warm up and warm up and warm up, and eventually it would sop that liquid up and it would thicken up. Sometimes they double or triple in size whenever they're filled with moisture, and then you could take your fork or a spoon and eat it just like that out of there. But it was something that if you had absolutely nothing else, you could still survive on. So, my dear Colonials, you're looking to dry these out until you hear that crack. And you're not going to break those apart unless you have something a little bit stronger. But if you have a pen and paper, I'll give you the recipe right now. So if you'd like to pause the video or whatever, I'll give you a few moments there. And now that you have a pen and paper, I'll give you the recipe. It's very simple. This is just one large mason jar's worth. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. It's about a dozen, maybe a baker's dozen, 13 or 14 in there. But it's 2 cups of flour and then about a half a cup of water and a teaspoon and a half of salt. If you want to put salt in there. Sometimes you don't have to. It's your preference. But mix that up until it's a manageable dough. And don't worry, the numbers don't have to be exact. It doesn't have to be dead on. You won't ruin it. So get it to a manageable dough. You don't want it sticky. Sometimes you have to add a little bit more flour, or sometimes it's just too dry. You have to add a little bit more water until it's a nice manageable dry dough. And then flatten that out, roll that out until it's about 1/3 of an inch thick. And then you can cut it into your pieces that you want. Some people prefer round ones. Those were the usual during the time period. The square ones didn't come about until later on. But I've seen people use cookie cutters. I used a pizza cutter today to make mine. After you get them all cut into the pieces that you want, take some sort of a skewer, whether it be a chopstick or something like that, and poke holes all the way through. That way it doesn't let the air build up and they won't rise while they're baking. And you put them on a cookie sheet, bake them at 375 for a half an hour. And whenever the bell rings, flip them. Flip all of them. And then put them back in the oven at the same temperature, 375, for another half an hour. And let them cool. Whenever they're done, let them cool to room temperature. And then once they're fully at room temperature, you know, maybe anywhere between that 65 to 75 degrees, once they're at that room temperature, now they're dry. You won't get any moisture or residual heat or anything like that that would cause any sort of moisture in there. And then just put them in an airtight container. We take these camping, we take them hiking, we take them on boat trips, canoe trips, reenactments, rendezvous, anything and everything that we want to get into that authentic time period. And so there you have it, my dear Colonials. Hardtack, worm castles, ship's biscuits, whatever you want to call it. The food staple and the real survival food for the trail. My dear Colonials, we'll see you next time. Cheers.